Welcome back to my channel, homie. Let's continue. Unable to resist, I crept closer to the door but quickly remembered my grandfather's words, that no one would come to call me or talk to me tonight. Then the voice said again, "What's wrong? You can come over here. It's fine." Although it sounded like my grandfather, I sensed that it wasn't him. I didn't know why, but I just had that feeling. Just as I thought this, goosebumps covered my body, and my eyes inadvertently glanced at the salt piles. The top part had turned black. I immediately rushed to the Buddha statue, sat down, tightly gripped the amulet, and started praying, "Please help me." Just then, I heard the sound again. Pop, 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 pop. The window glass made a thudding sound. Even though I knew it shouldn't be that tall, I couldn't help but imagine it reaching its hand up to tap on the second-floor window. The only thing I could do was pray to the Buddha statue. It felt like an endlessly long night, but eventually morning would come. The TV, which I hadn't turned off, was now showing the morning news, with the screen displaying 7:30 a.m. The tapping on the glass and the popping sounds had both disappeared at some point. Perhaps I had fallen asleep, or maybe I had fainted from fear. The salt in the room had all turned black. To be safe, I checked my watch, confirmed the time matched the TV, and then nervously opened the door. Outside stood my grandmother and K-Grandma, both of whom were tearfully saying how glad they were. When I got downstairs, my father had also arrived. My grandfather poked his head in from outside, urging, "Hurry up and get in the car." Then, outside the house, a travel van appeared, along with several men standing nearby. The van was a 9-seater, and I was instructed to sit in the middle. K-Grandma sat in the passenger seat, and the men all got in as well, surrounding me from 8 directions. "You've had a tough time. Although you might be concerned, please close your eyes and lower your head now. We can't see anything, but you might," said a middle-aged man sitting next to me. Then, my grandfather drove the small truck in front, followed by the travel van I was in, and finally my father in the small passenger car bringing up the rear. The convoy moved at a very slow pace, barely reaching 20 kilometers per hour. Before long, K-Grandma whispered, "Now is the important moment," and began to chant something. Pop, 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 pop. That sound started again. I tightly gripped the amulet I received from K-Grandma, trying to follow the instructions to keep my eyes closed and head down. But for some reason, I accidentally opened my squinted eyes and looked outside. I saw something white, like a dress, moving alongside the vehicle. Was it taking long strides to keep up? I couldn't see its head because it was above the window, but it seemed ready to peek inside, starting to lower its head. At that moment, I couldn't help but gasp. The person next to me said, "Don't look." I tightly shut my eyes again, gripping the amulet even harder. Thud, thud, thud. The window started to make knocking sounds. The people beside me began to panic as well. Even though I couldn't see it or hear what it was saying, I could still hear the sounds it was making. K-Grandma raised her chanting. Finally, just as I thought the sounds would cease, K-Grandma said, "We successfully avoided it." The other men, who had been silent up until then, also began to express their relief. Eventually, the vehicle stopped on a wider road, and I moved to my father's car. While my father and grandfather thanked the men, K-Grandma came over and said, "Let me see the amulet." Looking at the amulet I had been tightly holding, it had turned completely black. K-Grandma said, "Though I think it's probably fine now just to be safe. Keep this with you for a while longer." And she gave me a new amulet. After that, my father and I returned home. My motorcycle was brought back by my grandfather and some neighbors. My father seemed to know about Hachi too. He told me that when he was young, a friend of his died because of it. He knew of others who had also moved away after being bewitched. The men in the travel van were all relatives of my grandfather, meaning they were my distant relatives. To confuse Hachi's judgment, my grandfather and father, being closely related to me, formed that convoy arrangement. My father's brother, my uncle, couldn't arrive in one night, so they gathered those with even a slight blood relation to quickly assemble. Even so, it was impossible to gather 7 men immediately, and they thought it would be safer during the day than at night, so they locked me in that room for one night. At that time, the worst-case scenario was that my grandfather or father might have to take my place. Then, as I wrote earlier, my father once again instructed me never to go back to my grandfather's house. After returning home, when I called my grandfather, I asked if he had spoken to me that night. He firmly denied it. So that was it. As I thought this, a chill crept down my back. It is said that Hachi often targets teenagers or children because the young are more prone to panic and anxiety. When they hear the voice of a relative, they easily let down their guard. Now, 10 years later, just as I was about to forget about this incident, a terrible follow-up occurred. I don't know who broke the seal on the Jizo temple that kept Hachi contained, but now there's a road that leads to your house, my grandmother said on the phone. My grandfather passed away 2 years ago, and I, of course, couldn't attend the funeral. He had especially instructed that I must not attend. Even now, I convince myself that it's merely superstition, but I still feel extremely worried. What if I hear that pop, pop, pop sound again?